Dutch environmentalist Alexander Verbeek joins me live from Ottawa. Alexander, when you see a litany like this of all the ways climate change is affecting the planet, I think it can spark this reaction from people of, okay, here we are, this is our world now, nothing I could do could possibly help.
Well, that's sad if that is the reaction, because it's good if people get worried, but the reaction should be it is now time that we actually do something because we haven't done so much yet. Sitting down and saying that you can't do anything about it is actually the worst
Right.
position to be in. So governments can act. The good news about climate change is that we can stop it. We know how to do it.
Yeah, we've seen some extraordinary things over the past few years, too. Low-lying areas flooding on sunny days, island nations worried about their survival over the next few years, Indonesia having to move its capital farther away from the coast. It's pretty extraordinary what nations have had to do to deal with this.
Yes, we could go on and on with this list. It's often a combination of climate change with other things. So, for instance, the example of Jakarta, there the city is sinking 10 centimeters a year. That's mainly because bad management of water. People are pumping water from underneath the city, and therefore the city is sinking. And that is then combined with rising sea levels and also fiercer storms, so a higher surge. So it's often a combination of things. Climate change makes things worse. But as I just said, there is this is all a reason to act, and I believe that just sitting down and just complaining about how bad climate change is doesn't lead us anywhere. Uh, we've been warned over and over again for decades by the scientists that this was going to happen if we didn't do anything. We didn't do anything, and it did happen. So maybe now it's time to do something.
And now that people see the real, very real effects of this, in some cases affecting their daily lives. So we see the rate of change now. If you could look into your looking glass 100 years, 200 years down the road, how do you see societies changing because of this?
Well, if we look 100 or 200 years ago, it can be really frightening. If governments remain as inactive as they are now, still waiting for another government to act and therefore not setting rules for the industry, then we could be on devastating scenarios that you don't even want to imagine the future of your children and grandchildren or grandchildren, I guess, in 200 years from now. It can be devastating. We know how bad it can be. It can be an unlivable world. But we also know that we have the knowledge and the technology to hold climate change. The damage that has occurred is not all of that can be repaired, but we can create a world where there's limited climate change, where we can all still lead good lives, produce enough food, and have enough water. But there's no time to wait.
Yeah, and until humanity decides to really take drastic action, the actions now are mitigation and trying to protect people from the more intense climate effects that we're seeing. So where would you say the most urgent needs lie now?
It's a combination of mitigation and adaptation. That climate change has grown so bad now. We waited so long that we need to adapt countries by protecting people, building dikes, etc. But we will never solve it without the mitigation, without reducing the production of greenhouse gases. We should, in this decade, halve all the greenhouse gases that we produce, and we should by 2050, which is only 30 years away from now, or less actually, we should just be at a situation where we don't produce any extra greenhouse gases, and then the climate can restore itself. That does take time, but it's no longer believed by scientists that the story that you may have heard 5 or 10 years ago, that takes many, many decades. Actually, a lot of it can restore in a couple of years. Some effects will take much longer. Sea level rise is, for instance, a very slow ongoing process, but a lot of the effects that we see can much quicker be stopped and halted from getting worse.
Always to end with a little bit of optimism. All right, Alexander Verbeek, thanks for joining us.
Thank you.